everyone, hope you're all okay. In this video I will be making a birthday cake and I thought you could bake along with me. I've put my hair up and I've already washed my hands. I've got my equipment already ready. I'll show you the recipe now. Let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to measure my sugar out. And I would like to have 410 grams of caster sugar. Now this is going to be for a very big cake. So if you think I'd quite like to do some cupcakes, I can share that recipe with you as well. Just going to cut the recipe down, that's all we'll do. 410. Then we're going to put that in the big bowl. And then we're going to add baking marge. I don't use butter because I find baking marge helps the cake to rise a lot better. 225 grams of butter, or baking marge should I say. Now I'm going to use a hand whisk, put that in there as well. If you don't have one, you could use maybe a fork or maybe a spoon just to mix everything together. We're going to mix it until it's completely creamy and it becomes lighter in colour. You see it is getting a little bit lighter and it's starting to look a lot more creamy, and that's what we're aiming for. I've got some eggs and I'm going to use 4 eggs. If you want to, you can crack it into a cup and then pour it into your mix, and you can dig out any eggshell that you might get, but I feel quite confident and I'm going to go straight for it and put it in, but I'm still going to check, make sure. Each time I put an egg in, I am going to give it a little whisk just to make sure it keeps that nice smooth consistency. That's 1 egg done. Egg number 2. It's gone in. Egg number 3. And lastly, egg number 4 is going in. So I'm going to weigh out now 95 grams of self-raising flour. Now if you have a sift, pop it over your bowl and just add the flour in this way. This will help create kind of a lighter and more fluffy kind of cake for you. Don't want to whisk too much, just until it's done. Okay, just until it's all combined. Now the only trouble we have sometimes is if you have a look inside my bowl, you can see on the edges there's flour. Now you could get a spatula just to clean up the edges and bring all that mixture in, or use a spoon. So you want all of those ingredients to be really even throughout the cake. Now we need plain flour and we need 280 grams of plain flour. I'm going to put the flour in here. I should have really sieved that time, but don't worry, it shouldn't matter too much. Missed a step. I need 350 millilitres of milk. So if we have a look, I don't know if you can see that clearly there, but you'll see on yours, it'll have numbers on the side to help you. Just pop all the milk in. You can use buttermilk. I just tend to use semi-skimmed milk, it works just fine. So we're going to weigh out the bicarbonate of soda now, okay, and we would like to have teaspoons, and that would be 1 3/4, okay. This time I'm going to remember to use my sieve. So one, and I've got an option to do half of a one here. And then I'll just fill that up halfway, and that will give me the quarter of the next one. Okay, if you get stuck on that one, maybe ask an adult. Tap it on the side, get all that in, and then I'm going to weigh out our cocoa powder, and that's going to give it the lovely chocolatey taste. It's 90 grams. Now last time when I did the flour, I made a bit of a mistake and I didn't sift it. With the cocoa powder, you do need to make sure that you sift it. I'll show you in a minute, but it does have a few more lumps in. If we don't sift it, you can get a big lump of just cocoa powder and it doesn't taste as pleasant as when you sift it. So have a look. You see it's a little bit more lumpy. So putting it through the sift, that will take away any of those lumps. Tricky to get the lumps. You could use the back of a spoon just to get them all out. And I'm going to give that one final last mix before I put it into my pans. Again, you can see that I've got cocoa powder and flour all over the place in that bowl. So I am going to scrape the sides. And I'm going to try and get right to the bottom, because you will have a bit more of a clearer cake mix if you've made a chocolate cake before. Are you like me and tend to stick to the same recipe, like your trusted chocolate cake recipe? I tend to have my favourite recipes, and this is definitely the chocolate one. Now, because I want a nice tall cake, I've lined these with greaseproof paper as well, just so it doesn't stick. Because I want this to be a nice tall cake, so it's nice and high, I'm going to put a quarter of the mix in each tray. Bake those in the oven, which I've already preheated, and then when they come out I'll put the second lot in, so I will be making 4 little cakes, and then I will put them all on top. So let's start spooning them in. When you fill a cake tin, don't fill it right to the top, because what it will do, it will rise. And if you fill it too far up to the top, it will just overspill. So I'm quite happy, that looks okay. I'm going to use the back of my spoon just to spread the mix out, try and making it as flat as I can, so I don't have one side of the cake taller than the other. If you're like me and you've got a little bit of the chocolate mix on there, just clean that with a bit of kitchen towel or a clean tea towel, just so that bit doesn't burn. Okay, let's put it in the oven. So it's been half an hour and it's starting to smell really good in the kitchen, so it's time to get my cakes out. As you can see, they're domed. And if you touch, they'll bounce back. You can put something like a skewer or maybe a thin knife into them, and if they come out clean, that's when you know that you're baked. If they're a little bit gooey inside and that the knife comes out messy, then you can just pop them back in for a little bit. But I know by pushing on those and that they spring back, I know they're ready to go. Now it's time to get the cakes out of the pan. I'm still using a tea towel because they are slightly warm, okay, so still do be careful. I'm going to run a knife carefully round the edge of the cake. Now if you've got a cooling rack, you can place the cakes on top of the cooling rack. If you don't, like me, you can place them onto a plate, and then we're going to flip it so it rests with the greaseproof paper to the plate so it doesn't stick, because we don't want the cake massive bits being taken off. Okay, and I'll just allow that to cool, and I'm going to put more mixture, so I'll clean that up, I'll wash it all up and dry it up. I'll line it with greaseproof paper again, I'll put more mixture in and pop it in the oven for another 30 minutes. So all of the cakes are out of the oven and they're going to cool down completely before I do anything with that. But whilst I'm waiting, I'm going to be making the buttercream, okay? Try to use butter at room temperature because it's easier to mix around. So I'm going to use my hand whisk again, and I'm going to mix the butter completely before I add my icing sugar. And that way it'll be a lot easier to work with. Put it all over my bowl of butter, and then I'm just going to tap it down. I'm not going to add all of the icing sugar at once, because what will happen, you'll end up with a big cloud of icing sugar, and then I'll have a big job of cleaning my kitchen after, and I don't want to do that. And then we're going to whisk again with the hand mixer. Again, you can use the back of the spoon if you want to get all those little balls of icing out there as well. I'll do that bit at the end. Loads of different ways you can make a frosting for a cake. Sometimes I mix the ganache in with my buttercream, and that makes a really rich, tasty buttercream. Now, to give it its chocolatey taste, we're going to use some cocoa powder, and I think I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and I will be adding some melted chocolate to the mix as well, just to give it a real richness. Break it up into chunks, put it in the microwave, check in about every 30 seconds to make sure it doesn't overcook. So I've melted my 100 grams of dark chocolate. You can use milk if you want to. And then I'm just going to pour it into the cake. And then give it another mix. As you can see, you've got the icing sugar on the side. Try and get as much of that in as you can. If you think the buttercream is a little bit too stiff, you can add a little drop of milk in, or you can keep it like this. It's really up to personal choice. That's perfect, ready for my cake. So my cakes have completely cooled, and I'm going to get ready to assemble them now. What I've done is I've got a plate and I've just put it on my worktop upside down. If you've got a turntable at home, use that by all means. And then I'm going to place my cake on top of a cake board. Remember to take off the grease-proof paper. And we're going to use our buttercream, a bit like glue, but yummy glue, and stick it on the bottom there. I'm going to use a palette knife. You could just use any knife. I'm going to put a dollop in the middle, and then I'm going to spread it to the edges. Now the reason why I put it on a plate is so I can move the board around more easily. Try to make this quite level. You don't want a big lump on one side and none on the other side, okay? Again, remembering to take that paper off. And just push it on top like this. And we're just going to repeat that process. Okay, so as you can see, I've assembled all of the layers on top of each other. So now I'm going to do just a coat all around the cake, just to cover it completely in icing. Do be quite gentle at this stage, because you can take some of the cake off as you do it. If you think you're board's getting a bit messy, don't worry, because we can clean that up after. Smooth out the edges slightly by just running the knife around the cake. Now I'm not going for a perfect straight lines, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to now make the ganache that's going to be dripping off the edges. So I'm going to make the ganache now. I've got some cream and I've just heated it up and take it off. Don't keep it boiling, just bring it to when it starts to steam and just before it starts bubbling. I've also melted some chocolate. If you can see, we've still got lumps in the chocolate because it's not completely melted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the hot cream and it will finish melting in the cream. The reason I do this is because I don't want to overcook that chocolate and ruin it. I would say go for about 2 parts chocolate, 1 part single cream. And just keep mixing it and you should end up with a nice glossy chocolate. All my chocolate's completely melted now. Now you could just put it over the top and let it drip down, but I've got one of these that's going to help me control my drips a little bit better. I'm going to spoon that all in there. It does get a little bit messy. So I'm able to screw it on like so. Going to allow it to cool slightly because it's quite hot as well. So now it's time to make my drips. Just going to squeeze above where I want them. Sometimes you get the chocolate just right and it just rolls down. Other times you've got kind of got to just tease it down. So I'll catch up with you when I've done this. I'm now going to make a different type of frosting to go on top of the cake. And I'm just going to use the leftover buttercream that I've got and the ganache. And all I'm going to do is mix those two together. Okay, now I'm going to put that into a piping bag. Put my fancy nozzle in the end. Pop it over a cup, and then I'm just going to spoon it in. Squeeze it down. Get my cake. And then I'm just going to do swirls all the way around to make a kind of a ring. Right. Now for the fun part. Get some chocolate. Any different types that you like, put all your favourite chocolates on there, and we're just going to place them so they're quite evenly spread around the cake. Nice if you've got some different shapes in there. I'm going to use the frosting as a glue. There's no real order to this. Just kind of creating some kind of chocolate chaos. So I've finished my extremely chocolate cake. Let me bring you closer so you can have a look, because I've put lots and lots of chocolate all the way around. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you're baking at home as well. Speak to you soon. Bye.